The next question comes from a woman with MS in her 50s. And she says, after a long search, I finally found the continence pads that were perfect for me. However, my local trust no longer supplies them. This is extremely frustrating. What can I do?
Very
Everybody's nodding their head. This is obviously...
Because I think in every local authority there will be a service who has the responsibility for supplying continence pads. Most people think that pads are a prescription product. They're not. They're a locally agreed product, and most services will go out to tender to a different company every 5 years, which means that maybe sometimes people lose the pad that they're used to. What I would say is that most of the pad companies now, their range is very similar. So a bit like we've talked about earlier, sometimes it's trial and error to get the right product. But if there is a specific product that you really like, that works for you, that you've tried the products that the local authority supply and you still can't get on with them, I would always say make your continence specialist nurse your friend. Go back and talk to them. Sometimes there is the remit for, under special circumstances, a certain product being tried or ordered for them. Yeah. But I would say it's trial and error, and certainly in my experience there can be a lot of upset when products change unnecessarily, because actually they're all very similar.
I don't want to get too bogged down in budgets or anything, but I just want to make sure that we're really clear how this all works, because you know, you're going to see, for example, your continence nurse or your MS nurse who work in the health system, but what I understood you to say is that the products are coming through another part of the system. Right. Is that right?
If you're talking about pads in particular, most local authorities or every local authority will have a service, usually the continence service or a bladder and bowel service, who have the budget for pads for that area.
Right.
So pads are not a prescribable item, and you usually find that there'll be a certain number of products per day that are allowed, and they'll have a certain quite strict criteria. So for most areas around the country, it's that you've got intractable incontinence that can't be treated.
Right.
And this is usually where people get very upset. So if you've got intractable incontinence that can't be treated, then your local authority will provide you with a certain number of pads. But quite often they're going to be considerably larger than those smaller little products that you can buy on the high street or in the supermarkets.
Right.
Or if you're wearing a product as a just in case, most local services won't supply those.
Right.
However, there's a huge number of products out there that are available, and certainly there's again Bladder and Bowel Foundation or there are. I don't know if there's every week. Do we signpost from the MS Trust website?
We absolutely do.
We do, to the different companies. But when you're talking about catheters, or so intermittent catheters, or or indwelling catheters, or for chaps, sheaths, which are a great device, those items are all prescribable items, and people can either get hold of them from their chemist, or again there are lots of dispensing companies out there that are owned by the different manufacturers who will deliver your products to home and collect your prescription from your GP, and they're very, very good.
So we've talked about loads of different types of products, and it's a big challenge, I think, for people to know where to find information. And you've talked about the MS Trust as a place you can signpost people to find information, the Bladder and Bowel Foundation. Are there other places that people should think about looking when they're looking around for different products?
I think, I would always say your first step's your continence service, because
right.
they will,
your local specialist.
And I think also the thing about sheaths and pads and all these other different things, you can get them online and you can buy them online from abroad and things like that, but if you're not fitted properly for sheaths or pads or even catheters, if you're not choosing the right one and you're not shown how to use it properly, it won't work for you. And people get very disheartened when things don't work for them, but it's because they haven't actually been taught how to use it properly.
And they will, and your local continence specialist nurse will know who are the other local specialist people that you can be referred to.
Right.
Because, you know, as
It
you
does make a
say,
difference,
it's a bit
so.
like buying a pair of shoes. You want the right size and the right style for you.
And, and again, just so everybody is clear about these things, how do you get to a continence specialist nurse? Is that through your MS nurse? Will they be the route in?
It can be.
Yeah.
You can be through the GP.
Yeah.
It can be, actually, physiotherapists, OTs, you can set up, as I said earlier on, you can actually self-refer to a lot of the
Right.
continence services as well. So it's an open policy. So you don't actually have to be referred through MD medically.
Okay.
You know, something. So there's somebody out there for everybody.
There is.
Great.